सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। So repeat the 8th mantra after me. It is in first chapter, first section, 8th mantra. Tapasa chiyate brahma tatonnam abhijayate annat prano manas satyam lokah karmasu chamritam. Yesterday we saw that the Brahma did tapas. What was the tapas? With single pointedness, aikagryam, with the ekagrata, the collective karma and the vasanas, when they reach to the fructification period, then there is a need for them to express, and the need for that expression takes the form of four-headed Brahmaji. And with his ekagra tapas that he had done, acquiring the knowledge, acquiring the know-how as to how to create. See, that is the difference between Ishvara and Jiva. Both have three Shaktis: Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti and Kriya Shakti. And the sequencing in these three Shaktis makes us Ishvara or Jiva. Only that much is the difference between bound and liberated. Just a sequencing disorder. Brahma had that creative urge because of the fructification of the samashti vasanas. As soon as that first desire to be, what did he do? He did severe austerities, acquired the jnana and then jumped into action. So what is the sequence? In Ishvara, there is Ichha Shakti. Ichha Shakti, before it expresses as Kriya Shakti, the connecting bridge is Jnana Shakti, a well processed, well thought out plan executed, knowing how to execute. Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Whereas us Jivas, what is the difference? As soon as there is Ichha Shakti, we jump into Kriya Shakti, and Jnana Shakti dawns later. I am being prompted that it never dawns. So that is a huge difference between Ichha Shakti, the huge difference between Ishvara and the Jiva. So that Brahma, with his creative urge, creative surge, he emerges out into the field of matter. And how does he emerge into the field of matter? by enlivening it. Tasmat annat pranaha. It was enlivened. Now, prana here does not just mean the air that we breathe. It is the prana shakti, that which enlivens every form and being. There are other religions which believe that it is only the human beings have a soul. But in Hinduism we say that every form of creature, Andaja, Udbhija, Varija and Jarayuja, all four kinds. Andaja, Anda, you know, right? That which is born out of egg. Udbhija, that which is born from the earth. Varija, that which is born from waters or sapidity or moisture, including the things that grow here. You know, what do they call it? Lice. It is because of the moisture there. They are the king of this jungle. How are they born? Because of moisture. Varija. And then Jarayuja. Jarayuja, that which is born from the womb, the mammals. All creatures are enlivened. All beings are enlivened by this prana shakti. And wherever this prana shakti is, that becomes the center of activity for all interactions with the world outside. As soon as the child is born, do you think he will want to sit all or lie down like this all throughout? Constantly, whatever he can move, whatever that baby can move, first the limbs, hands and legs vigorously shaking. And you can mark a deforestation in their back of their head, which marks saying that they have not yet turned on their stomach. Now, once they turn on their stomach, shuru. Why? They will start trying to explore everything. The center of prana cannot be, subdued. It wants to express and interact with everything that can be found outside. Now, for a child, everything that is around him, what is the first thing that he would like to do with the things that he finds? Whether it is your watch, whether it is your cell phone, whether it is your pen, whether it is your finger, whether it is your whatever they find, including mud like Lord Krishna. The first thing that they do is put it in their mouth. That is when the parents start taking care of the minute details. The coins cannot be left alone, nuts and bolts cannot be lying around, things that once you have used to cut and clean and they have to be gone to their proper places. Why? The Mr. Explorer is inquisitively waiting to explore the world around. Wherever that prana shakti takes the root, it needs to express, and needless to say, what is the interface of interaction with the world outside? Pranat manaha. That prana shakti comes, expresses interacting with the world through the mind. When there is no mind, what happens? Is there any interaction? Absolutely no interaction. I think a couple of days ago we were seeing, the world exists only when your mind is awake. Don't change the standpoint from the world's perspective towards the mind. I am talking from the mind's perspective towards the world. That is what seemingly brings in a confusion. Yeah, that mind sleeps, but the world still exists. We were not talking from the standpoint of the world. We are talking from the standpoint of that particular mind, that the world exists to that mind only when it is awake. And the moment it is awake, wants to interact with the world outside. Imagine you make an observation tomorrow when you wake up, or even after the class when you wake up. What is the first thing that you do? Yes, if you are waking up here, then you turn around very gently and see if nobody was watching you. And then slowly put your head, and I have to push my head somewhere else because I have been observing. Or else it will be very awkward, right? Abhi jaag rahe hain, and then I am looking at them. As soon as you wake up, you first identify with this body, mind and intellect. I am me is the first cognition. Then my surroundings. For people who travel extensively, almost every third day into a new city, a new place, a new environment, very confusing. You wake up and you have the habit to switch on your table lamp, and it has that press thing, and then you do this and nothing comes to your hand. Why? You are in totally new environment. Oh, okay, this is a new place. Where am I? And it takes a while for the mind to relate. As soon as the mind wakes up, it needs to relate to everything. It needs to interact, find and relate with everything. So, prana, pranat, manah. And what is the field that it wants to interact? Lokaha. Lokaha. Adi Shankaracharya ji says the 14 lokas. He has just expanded it to the maximum capacity. All the 14 lokas. But we see only this loka. Or else if you are in Bombay, you at the most reach to just loka. Just loka is hospital. Okay. For those of you, what is just loka? Just another loka. Just loka. I know only this world. The mind can be tuned to subtler aspects and it can revel in other worlds as well. Okay. In our own practical sense, the other interpretation of lokas, waking loka. If you are awake, when you look around, that is the waking world. It has its own rules, regulations, stipulations and all the binding various things that the world is bound by. You should do certain things, you should not do certain things, you should do certain things only at a certain time. The list can go on. And you learn them accordingly and live accordingly into this world. Then comes the interesting loka. What is the interesting loka? Where I can freak out with my rules and my restrictions for myself. It is a loka of dream. Swapna avastha or swapna loka. Don't we call it swapna loka? Get out of your dream world. And usually the dream world is a very funny place. Lot of hodgepodge things of this world reflect there. All that which is restricted here, you can freak out there because nobody will restrict. So my usual example is, if there is somebody suffering from diabetes, usually I have made a note that those who are having diabetes have a deep fondness towards anything that is sweet. I am talking of material sweet, not like yesterday's sweetness. So they are forbidden to eat anything sweet. No tea with that sweet taste tea, it doesn't taste like tea. Coffee without sugar. Anything that sugary, you should avoid. So how would be the dream of such person? Mountains and mountains of laddus. Now you can find varieties. Rava laddu, bundi laddu, motichur ke laddu, desi ghee ka laddu. Mountains and mountains and mountains of them. Oceans and oceans of kheer. You can swim along. And what are the sands? In the Gurudwaras, they give that, prasad. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? Not langar. Yeah, it's made of wheat. केसरी बोलते हैं थोड़े लोग, रवा केसरी kind of. So sands of that. And then what are you doing? Hula loops of jalebi. Now imagine, whatever that is restricted here, you can enjoy there. And then there is third avastha, third loka, wherein even that mind which loves to create a web, now is tired and goes into deep sleep. Totally disidentified even with that subtler aspect. Right here we have created these lokas. And these lokas are called Satya Loka. Why are they called Satya Loka? Is there any Satyatva to this Loka? The material with which the entire world is made of is the Panchamahabhutas. The Panchamahabhutas are called Satya. Why are they called Satya or eternal? In comparison to its modificated expressions of all these beings and creatures which are temporary. In comparison with them, it is having a longer shelf period. So that's Satya, Satya Loka. And in that interaction, what do we start creating? We start creating a chain of karma. Why do we do karma? Initially there is a vacuum inside. There is a hollowness inside. So essentially we are all HH. The great masters, they have always been said, His Holiness. All the royal people say, His Highness. हम भी कुछ कम नहीं. We are also HH. What is HH? His or her hollowness. There is a deep sense of vacuum, void inside. And in order to fill that vacuum, we try now various experiments. Nothing that comes by in our life goes by unexperimented. Many leave burning marks, but still we don't learn. We keep experimenting. Lots and lots of karma. As the karmas get intensified, the likes and dislikes and the impressions thereof also get intensified. And we are caught in that web of karma, vasana, vasana, karma, karma, vasana, vasana, karma, constantly circling around that. For what? At the end of karma, I am expecting something. What is it that I am expecting? Amritam. Karma phala here is called Amritam. Why is it called Amritam? Because these karma phalas take us to Amrita Loka, Swarga Loka. Swamiji, have you gone? No. My reference is only scriptures. Whether I have gone or not, my wisdom is as good as yours. And we don't know what has happened in the past before this birth. So, is there Swarga? If this world is real, then there is Swarga, there is Naraka also. If this world is not real, then there is no Swarga, there is no Naraka. Now, whenever the scriptures say that the world is real or unreal, it is not from the standpoint that this material cannot be seen if it is not unreal. To see this entire universe, perceive the entire universe in the formatting of multitude as separate from Paramatma or that conscious principle is called unrealness. See, Vedavyasa puts this entire thing in one single shloka. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, unreal, Jagat is unreal. But from what standpoint? Jivo Brahmaiva na aparaha. When seen as something other than that Brahman, that pure consciousness, then it is called Mithya or unreal. But if this is real, then that Swarga Loka is also real. And it seems to be effortless and quite extensively enjoyable. So, compared to this world, that world seems to be Amrita. For the ignorant, there is another interpretation of Amrita. We would die for getting those results. Why? Getting those results, whether it is goals, visions, ambitions, various things that we project. The aim is, at the end of it, I find that immense satisfaction. That satisfaction, that completion is almost like Amrita Tulya. Hence, therefore, temporarily again it is called Amritam. That karma phala is called Amritam. This is the field of apara jnana, the result of apara jnana. But whereas, what is the parajnana? Said in the 9th mantra, Yas sarvajñas sarvavit Yasya jnanamayam tapaha Tasmadetad brahmanama Rupamannam cha jayate Yaha sarvajñah sarvavit yasya jnanamayam tapaha. That parajnana or parasthiti, how is it? Jnanamayam. Maya shabda paripurnatvat, that which it is filled with is called mayam. I think I have given this example earlier. You go to South India, Tamil Nadu, order for a cup of coffee, Madrasi coffee. And it is not like the buckets and the mug size that we have here. With one big size of coffee here, you can fill at least 10 sizes there. Small. And they are expert, 1 meter, 10 meter. They will mix that frothy coffee. How is it? It is called decoction maya. There is that coffee and the blend of chicory in it, and then it is more of that, less of milk, less of sugar, and there is a proper blend in it, which makes it a perfect coffee. You travel little north and you order for coffee in Gujarat, and what you get is called khada chammach. You know what khada chammach means? There is so much sugar in it that you put a spoon, it stands firm. That is called khada chammach. So what that coffee is called? Sugar maya. If my Gujarati friends are not offended, sugar maya. And you go further north in Punjab. The best thing, don't order coffee. Order lassi, order doodh, but don't order coffee. What will it be? It will be this lota full of milk, few drops of coffee, and then layered with malai cream. लो जी आपका coffee. And then what that coffee is called? Dugdhamaya. It is not coffee, it is dugdhamaya, filled with milk only. There will be just a smell of coffee, not even the taste. So the Paramatma or the Parat Sthiti, how is it? Jnanamaya. Jnanamaya, completely, it is nothing but Jnana Swarupa. That whose nature is predominantly Jnana. Nothing other than Jnana exists in that city. Now our Jnana and that Jnana Sthiti is little different. Our Jnana is called data. And that Jnana Sthiti is of conscious or awarefulness, knowing perspective. That is called Jnana. Yes, yaha sarvagnaha sarvavit. And because that parasthiti is jnanamaya, he is sarvagnya. That conscious principle or Paramatma is sarvagnya, knows everything. Nothing other than that Paramatma can know anything at all. Whatever we know is only limited fractions of things. And Gurudev used to define what is research, knowing more and more about less and less is our thesis. We knew lot about atom. Now there is nucleus. We knew lot about nucleus, they broke it. Now we know about the subnuclear particles. The last I checked, there were some particles after photons, which only has energy, no mass. Amazing. There is no mass to it, but there is energy. Because we only understand energy and mass together, and now they are trying to break that. Those big tunnels that they have created in Europe, wherein they shoot that particle at the speed of light. Knowing more and more about what? Less and less. This Paramatma is Jnana Swarupaha, and by whose presence Everything that happens in this samashti happens in the awareness of that Paramatma alone. There is nothing that happens without the illumination illuminating that particular event, and that is Paramatma illuminating. So, from that Jnanamaya comes out Brahma, Tasmad Etad Brahma, and then Nama Rupa. And the entire world of causation is put in two words. It expresses as Rupa, and that Rupa has to have a Nama, form and a name. You think of a name, you immediately can imagine the form. You see a form, you immediately can think of a name. Like with 6 sessions, I can recognize almost all forms. And it is a very strange equation that everybody says Hari Om, and then that is the introduction. There is never an introduction as to I am so and so, my name is so and so. So I know many forms, but the names I don't know. See, whenever in this country there is a middle name and it is, there is no middle name, they put X. So similarly, what is the X factor here in Chinmaya Mission? All those forms that I know but I can't name them is another form of Hari Om. That is the only name. Suno, Hari Om? Thanks to this social networking thing, there are so many things posted. Okay, this face goes with this name. You start recognizing the names. This was not my condition when I was in Vijayawada. In Vijayawada, there were no cell phones or any such gadgets available in those days. So there were around 450 people. I know their names, phone numbers, their landlines. I know their children's names. I know their addresses, because we had to send all the, so for many years almost, we would sit down and write those addresses. So I remember all those addresses and phone numbers and everything even today, because there is that association. There is a name, I can think of a form. Think of a form, I can think of a name. You want to experiment? That which is predominantly green comes anywhere from this size to this size or even bigger. Sometimes there are green and lighter green shades on it. As you cut, it is red inside, and it has that sprinkled black spots called its seeds. Recognized? What is it? Watermelon. So you think of the attributes you can name. The moment I said yesterday mango and described it, you should have seen the reaction. Why? Along with the name, all the attributes also were imagined. Nama Rupa. Unless we brand the world outside in relation to us, we are not comfortable with that world. See, many of these parents of those who have settled here, they come, but they don't feel comfortable. They want to run back to India. Why? Because there are many forms, they cannot associate a relationship and name it. And they feel pretty vacuum, void that they are living in, because they cannot relate to it, they cannot associate with it. Whereas back there, they know everything on the tip of their fingers. Because the Nama Rupa. And then how are they sustained? They are sustained with different formats of food. Annam cha jayate. Meaning the rest of it afterwards, after Brahma, this creation, prana, anna, prana, mana, satyam, lokaha, all that creation starts forth. But it is not without the support of that parasthiti. On the substratum of that parasthiti alone, that all these modifications can happen. So, thus having said so far, he moves to the further intricate details as to what is the limitation of this paravidya. How far can we take this paravidya to be true, and when do we drop it as not required? It's a very simple example. Let me first give the example before I venture into that chapter. You need a banana leaf, traditional house, and you are given hospitality. The first thing is you have to sit down. And whenever I have gone with those who have lived here for long enough to be called or branded as American, and they come back, they cannot sit. Why? You should see their struggle. Beyond this point, it doesn't go. And then there is a banana leaf in front of them. And many of them who have born and brought up here, grown here, it's a hilarious mess if served on a banana leaf. I remember once, I'll not name them. So, it was a banana leaf experience in the ashram. And growing up as a South Indian, what is the signature? The signature is when there is rasam round, because in South India it is first course, second course, third course, fifth course, nth course. It is rice. So, in the rasam round, they have first a mountain of rice, and they expect that you dig a well out of it. So, there is a hole created. And then they pour, and the first 2 scoops of it they pour. Then you quickly mash, and then again create a second round. Expertise. You create a second round in that. Then there is that liquid poured. Then slowly mash it inside, so it becomes a semi-liquid. And now the best part. Without the spoon. See, if you are an expert, you don't even need to do this. You can do. And then you can say, finger licking good. Here they eat with forks and say finger licking good, it doesn't gel well. So you have to scoop that. So this person saw that in the ashram we were scooping it out so effortlessly. She said, show that again. And I very gladly ready to show off the talent to use the fikes, not the forks, 5 fingers, and then showed it. Once more. Said, okay, once more. And then she went through the same process. First round mashed it, second round again semi-liquid condition, and then she did this. Bhidyate hridaya granthi chidyante sarva samshayah. The leaf was in 2 or 3 pieces. It was a war zone. And the entire rasam mixture was like, and we were sitting just out of that boundary. So we were safe. How long would you require that banana leaf? Until you eat, finish. And once you are done with it, you roll it, carefully carry it and throw it in the dustbin. Its purpose is served after the food is consumed. While throwing it in the dustbin, you can say, the purpose of this banana leaf is done, and you can discard it. Until you reach to that point, you cannot discard. It has to be efficiently used. Similarly, various aspects of the field of karma have their limitations and certain purposes to be achieved. But having achieved its purpose, that association with that karma has to be given up, transcended and move forward. But if this knowledge is given to like somebody who is just about to eat, tell them banana leaf has to be discarded. Khayega kahan? Where will he eat? Has to be discarded after you eat. Similarly, the association and the attachment with the karma has to be used through the karma to grow out of it. That is where Gurudev puts it very beautifully, magic of words again. He says, it is not freedom from action, but it is freedom in action. So, having given this much of intro to this subject matter of the second chapter, the purpose of karma is explained as well as its futility after a certain point is also explained. So, let us take that as our discussion. Tadetat satyam mantreshu karmani kavayo yani apashyantani tretayam bahudha santatani tanyacharatha nityam satyakama yeshavah pantha sukritasya loke. Tadetat satyam. That which is given in the karma portions of the mantras. The Vedas are divided into 3 kanda: karma kanda, upasana kanda and jnana kanda. Each segment of the Veda is called a samhita, and each segment of this samhita has 4 parts to it. We have earlier discussed this, I am just briefly mentioning it again. What are the 4 parts? Mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. Mantra, I am just putting it in a very easy format for us to understand. What does mantra mean? Mantra means formula or formulae. Different formulas that we can apply in different scenarios. Mantra. Brahmana. Brahmana, each mantra in its own field, applied and perfected. How to perfect it is explained in the field of Brahmana. There are many students who go through that and think that there is still something more to be perfected in it. So they do specialization, research on it. And where was the research done? The labs of those days were in the Aranya. Aranya, in the forest, in the solitude. Hence, therefore, the third segment of research is called Aranyaka, that which is a result of their thorough investigation and research. And any samhita, any field that we take should finally culminate into that jnana sthiti, which is called the Upanishad. So, the first three, mantra, brahmana, aranyaka, have a major portion of karma. There are certain portions of brahmana and the aranyaka which are also in the upasana kanda. So, karma kanda, all first three portions have lot of karma kanda. The second and the third, which is the brahmana and the aranyaka, have lot of upasana kanda. And where is jnana kanda? In the Upanishads. So, here he says, mantreshu karmani kavayo yani apashyan tani bahuda santatani tretayam. All that which is stated in these mantras of the karma kanda, upasana kanda, are true to its word. They say that Dasharatha did not have children, but he had how many wives? Decide karo bhai. Somebody says 4, somebody says 3. 3 or 4? There cannot be 3.5. 3 wives. And he did not have children. So, then he performed this yajna. What was that? Putra Kameshti Yaga. Performing that yaga is a karma. And then he was blessed with that payasam or kheer, golden ball of kheer. So, the first one had one child, the second one had, because she took twice, and the third one had, the second one had the one child and the third one had 2 twins. So, they had 4 children. What was the yaga performed? Putra Kameshti yaga. Will performing such acts yield such results? Tadetat satyam. It has its impact and it is true. There is Varuna Homa. Whenever there is drought, they perform this Varuna Homa, and when meticulously performed, it is not easy to perform these things because the ingredients and the timing and a lot of calculation, lot of process. When perfectly enacted, performed, it just pours down cats and dogs. I have been in that Varuna Homa at least 3 or 4 times. The first time we were just experimenting because we learnt that Varuna Homa mantra. And by the end of that Varuna Homa, it started raining. The entire place got flooded. The Yajna Kunda, we could not even perform good Purnahuti. It was so rushed. So by the second time we got expertise. So we built a platform 5-6 feet tall. On that platform there was the Yajna Kunda, and the platform could seat at least 28 of us or 30 of us, that big a platform, and then covered it with a nice roof. Now rain or doesn't matter, we will be safe there. And then you should see the rains. Even in the worst of the drought situation, it will rain. Why go to Varuna Homa? Whenever Gurudev or Guruji, when they come to the place and there is an amazing evening of satsang, you will be shocked that it will rain, at least few drops, sprinkle. I thought Upanishads and things, they have more of a serious study, and where are you taking it is into this mysterious world. The mantra says, Tadetat Satyam, such things can happen. In our personal life, what is of more importance? Tapasya, Dana, Shravana, Manana, Puja, Japa. These things are also karma, and they have their purpose to be achieved. Tadetat Satyam. I don't feel like doing puja. Why? I am more of an intellectual person. Are you still identified with this body, mind and intellect? I don't need an answer. Think for yourself. If yes, then in order to disidentify from the grossest aspect of our attachments, one of the easiest and the best suited methods is called upasana, is called doing puja, wherein you replace the concept intellect, or in the buddhi you replace the concept of the ego with the super written form of the Lord, and that makes it easy to disidentify. There is a purpose for each one of these steps. Tadetat Satyam. Therefore, He Satya Kama, all those of us who are intending to reach to that highest state of Satya, Satya Kama, Satyam Ichchantah, those who are desirous of that Satya alone, what should they do? Tani Acharata Niyatam, should perform these regularly. Every day you should start your day by disturbing God, at least for a few minutes. Sit in front of Him, wake Him up, give Him a shower, talk to Him, bid farewell, do a little puja, a little japa, and perform dhyana. Read a scripture or a part of the scripture daily. Now when I say read, it is not like Om Vishnu Vishnu Karo Atma. What was that? Vishnu Sahasranama super fast speed. You should have seen me the other day in Chitrakoot. They had started and they would not budge with the speed. Shri Guru Charana Saroj. I said, when will you finish? Then Swami, you start. Then in one breath, already 4-5 dohas are done. Like, we can't twist our tongues. See, when the japa or the dhyana is done, it is to sink every aspect of our being into that present moment. That all the attachments that we entertain are dropped at that particular instant. And if we are aiming for that, we should not take a shortcut. Do every step of it thoroughly. What will it give? Yeshavah pantha sukrutasya loke. It takes us to Sukruta Loka. Now, what is this Sukruta Loka? The word is beautiful. Sukruta. It is not Gujarati Su, it is Sanskrit Su. Sukruta means well done, well accomplished. Meaning all that which these processes are meant to take us to. When we reach there, it is well accomplished. But without understanding the purpose of these karmas that we are supposed to take, we do it more out of a fear factor or of a feel good factor. Okay. Both are FF. Feel good factor and it is fear factor. Why do I do? No, when I do it, I feel good. Why? I get some punya. In this world's language, brownie points. I get some brownie points when I do this in the morning. I feel good. Or the other reason, bhaya. I have done this, I don't know what will happen. I need a protection layer. And at the end, confession. Kayena vacha manasendriya va buddhyatmana va prakriti svabhat karomi yad sakalam parasmai narayana yad samarpaya. Oh Lord, you alone protect me. I have done things. Or you alone protect me. I have not done things. A little girl comes to her father and says, Dad, if I have not done something, will you scold me? Knowing her mischievous nature, he said, if you have not done it, why will I scold you? Thank you, Dad, I have not completed my homework. There are things that you have to do. There are things that you should not do. We do exactly opposite. Understand each karma and its purpose, not out of fear, not out of feel good factor, and perform them. Sukrutasya loke. And they do have their limitations. Understand their limitations as well. Because when, see, there are many people who say that, when we have to start, there was somebody who asked recently a question. Let me remember. I am told, that person, that lady told me, that we should not chant Lalita Sahasranama because it can yield a bad effect. How do you, answer to this question? I said, if you take Lalita Sahasranama as a Sakama Upasana, there is a certain desire to be fulfilled and hence therefore you are taking a certain chanting up. Then it comes with its own package deal. You have to perform things accordingly with certain norms. But you do it as a japa. And why are you doing it? Bhagavat Prityartham. It is for the joyous moment of just being with the Lord, nothing else. Nishkama Upasana. Nishkama Upasana has all kinds of relaxed environment. So much so that you can do that japa without even taking shower. But when you are doing sakama, you have to have a shower, you have to take, it has to be at certain time, it has to be at certain place, it has to be with certain steps that you have to perform. This is just japa. Imagine the yajna. the Homa, Havan and the Yagas that are done, they have extensive stipulated rules and regulations. Even if we miss by 1 or 2, it will have contrary effects. Like Diti did the tapasya to give birth to a son who would vanquish Indra, and on the last day she missed 1 step. What happened? There are 49 children born, and all of them, instead of vanquishing Indra, they became his aid, and they are called the Marudganas. Prana, Apana, Vyana, Udana, Samana, these are 5 of the main of these Marudganas. 1 step, 1 day miss, and she did it for 365 days. 1 day miss and done. पर एक ही दिन तो था, एक ही बार तो मिस्टेक किया था. It will have its repercussion. But when you do it with Nishkama, the bhava is, it is my own mother that I am calling, it is my own mother that I am worshipping. Would any mother be really angry with the son or daughter? Even if it be angry. They have a right to. If not on me, who will they get angry on? And because they have the right to get angry on me, I have the right to tease them also. See, when Ramakrishna Paramahansa would sit in front of Kali, he would play with her. And people would be like shocked seeing that, what is he doing to that Kali Devi, that idol. So somebody went complained to the Rani there, and she understood him more than anybody else. So she says, what is happening, Ramakrishna? So he says, I was playing today and I understood. Why? As a child, I alone can play with her. It is my right to play. If it is Nishkama. And because most of these karmas are performed with Sakama Bhavana, various aspects are discussed here, which probably we might not have read or gone through in our lifetime. They are mentioned here briefly. For example, in the second mantra, Yada lelayate hyarchihi samidhe havyavahane tadajya bhagau antarena प्रतिपादयेत श्रद्धया हुतम So one of the rules, just as giving examples. So the next few mantras he is giving examples in the field of karma, upasana, which is done with sakama bhava. What are the things to be focused on? Say if you are lighting a fire. This is a sacred fire. You are lighting that sacred fire and you have to offer oblations into that fire. How should the oblations be offered? Many times when we sit, people say, we are performing a havan, aajao. Anybody and everybody sitting there and they have fun throwing things into fire. What do you call them? Those who pyromaniacs. Because they love throwing things into fire. And they will not even say, what do I offer into the fire? Kya फेंकना है? अरे फेंको मत बाबा. Offer it into that fire. So the attitude should be that it is a sacred fire that is lit, and into that sacred fire the offering How should the offerings be done? Yada lelayate herchihi samidhe havyavahane. When the flames that you kindle into that yajna kunda, they should flourish, and into those flames that have flourished, that you offer it between the flames, not on the flame. Simple logic, right? If there is a candle lit or a lamp lit, where do you pour the oil? Many of us have not handled those big lamps. In fact, the design of that lamp is done so beautifully that nothing should drip out of it down. We seldom look into that detail. We pull that wick such a way that it is hanging down. Those pointed edges, it is hanging down. And all of these people are well read. They have gone through science. There is that capillary effect. What does capillary effect mean? It gets siphoned, the oil gets pulled, even without it being lit, just the oil starts dripping. When it is lit, because it is hot there, the oil is sucked faster and it drips faster. So underneath, it's a big mess. So how should the lamp be lit? It should be lit in such a way that right at that there is a little edge that it is given, that it just protrudes out there straight rather than ding. It has to be. How do I explain it now? I had learnt it from Gurudev. Once he was asked to inaugurate a school, and the lamp was to be lit, and the arati, ekarati was given with the wick in it, and he kept standing there. It took 5 minutes to light that lamp. So he said, next time. He had lot of patience actually. Next time, put that wick and submerge it in camphor. What will happen? The camphor lights fast, and then it lights that wick continuously. So the oil, how is it to be poured? Not into the pit. See, there is a beautiful design on the top. You know why that design is given? So that the oil is poured on that design and it comes down with least momentum, that the wick be moving or shaken or sucked into the oil movement that you are pouring in. So you pour it on that. And we pour directly into the pit. What will happen to the wick? It will get pulled. Similarly, when you are doing a havan, the flames are flourishing, and where do you offer? In between the flames, so that it supplies this oblation directly as a fuel for it to flourish further. If you put it directly on the flame, what will happen? Done. And then you sit with that little fan, and then and you are smoked out. And you come out grilled and barbecued with eyes, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati flowing, face has become red. Why? A simple science not applied. Yada lelayate harchihi samidhe havyavahane tada ajya bhagau antarena ahutihi. Antarena, in between those flames, it has to be offered. What will happen if you offer it directly, dump it onto that flame? The flame will get extinguished. It has to be poured efficiently. Avapasthana, that in between the flames offering is called avapasthana. This is just the start of it. As to how to offer into the flame. What are the rules and regulations? The rules and regulations as stipulated are heavy. How are they? In the next mantra, YasyagniHotram Adarsham Apaurnamasam Achaturmasyam Anagrayanam Athitirvarjitam cha Ahutam Avaishvadevam Avidhinahutam Asaptamantasya Lokan hinasti. So, when you are performing that Agnihotra Karya, here they are taking the example because it is of that period, that example suits. Like if I were to take an example in today's world, what would be the example? When you are prescribed to do a certain japa as a nitya anusthana, it is to be not done because there is a certain number that you have to finish. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. What are you doing? Japa of Om Namah Shivaya. Why? My Guruji has told me that I have to do 10 malas 108 times. And each mala has 108, 10 times I have to do. And I can only allot 20 minutes. In that 20 minutes I have to accomplish it. Hence therefore, Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. What is the purpose of that upasana that is given? Like Adi Shankaracharya and Bhaja Govindam says, Ganga Jalalava Kanika Pitva, in that shloka he says, read at least one shloka of Bhagavad Gita daily. So there was this gentleman that I knew. Every day he would stand in front of the Lord and read one shloka. Dharma kshetre, kurukshetre, samaveta, yutsa, mamaka, pandavas, cheva, kiva, kurvata, sanjaya. And then go away. Why? I am following Adi Shankara's instruction. He asked me to read one shloka every day. I am reading one shloka every day. Are aage bhi badhoge? And that reading one shloka is not just repeating one shloka. Understand the meaning, understand its application, apply it in day-to-day life. That is what he means by reading it. In many of the houses, Bhagavat, Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, they are very decoratively put and tied in silken cloth and placed in the altar. Every day there is Aarti. Aarati Shri Ramayana Ji ki kabhi khol ke padho bhi. Similarly, the mistakes that could have happened is when you are performing the Agnihotra. What should be done? We should understand that it should be accomplished with the Darsha and the Paurnamasa. There are certain rules that with the full moon and the new moon, how it has to be done on each day in between. It is not a random act. It is in coincidence with the moon's waxing and waning. Darsha Paurnamasa. And then it has to be done with Chaturmasya. See, the Chaturmasya technically is those 4 months of the weather or the climate wherein it is raining extensively. So you cannot go around from one place to the other. So you are asked to stay put in one place. And our scriptures understand, if you are asking somebody to stay put in one place, you need to give them lot on their hand, so that they are occupied and it is not an empty place for the devils to run around. So, in the morning you do this and this, in the evening you do this and this, in the afternoon do this kind of upasana. Make that 4 months worthwhile. So, there is Chaturmasya, and then every day after your Agnihotra Karya is done, after your Nityanusthana is done, thou shall not eat before feeding or unless you have fed some Atithi. In the olden days, as I remember my grandfather or their age group, by the time they would finish their puja, it would come around 11, 11:30, 12. So, he would go out and anybody walking, he would personally go, invite them, give them water to wash their hands and legs, and he would sit there, he would personally bring a leaf, and it is not leftover food. It is that food which is just offered to God, is offered to that Atithi. First give it to the Atithi, then what is left, you partake. I was at somebody's house, I will not tell whose house or where it was. A very nice Amma, but a very straightforward, on the face kind of, into your face kind of. So, I was eating and I was going to pick an orange, and she looked at me and said, "Kele kha lijiye Swamiji." And I said, "Abhi nahi khana." "Nahi kha lijiye, kharab ho jayenge." She meant good. Nothing insulting, she meant it with a very pure heart. You could see it in her eyes. She meant it in a very utilitarian perspective. And then she says, "Kal वैसे काम वाली भी नहीं आ रही है." Tomorrow, the cleaning ladies are also not coming. It will go waste. Finish them off. Or whatever is left out, whatever is remaining, we eagerly wait for a beggar to come by, at least back in India. Why? Food should not be wasted. Hence, therefore, give something which was anyway going to be dumped to somebody outside. That is not treating Atithi. What does Atithya mean? That which you give should be of the same quality that which you would have taken, because you are offering it to that Narayana in that form. Now, the concept of Atithi is totally gone, because you suddenly approach somebody's house. Swami, it is a pleasant surprise, but you should have at least called. At least next time you please call and come. So, there is no concept of Atithi. You have to have a prior appointment. There is only Abhyagati. Abhyagati, those who have already taken appointment. And then the right attitude of invoking different gods. See, before you perform, like you do the ordinary puja, what is the first puja that you perform to? Ganesh Bhagwan. So, first you invoke Ganesh ji and then give him little Naivedya, and then Ganesh ji is Udvasitavyam, and then you start your rest of the puja, right. Similarly, when you are performing a yaga, there are so many devas that have to be invoked necessarily. Vidhivat, meaning they have to be invoked in the right order, right sequence. You cannot invoke any order which way that you think. There is a protocol. And according to that protocol, you have to invoke. If all these things are not done and you just do the yaga, Om Swaha, Om Swaha, Om Swaha. See, this Upanishad is very clearly stating what happens. Saptaman tasya lokan hinasti. The impact of improper invocation can have impact on 7 generations. 3 prior to you, 3 after you, and 1 yours. सबके बेचारे इतने become such frozen. अरे बाप रे. See, when there are rules and regulations kept, they are kept for a certain reason. We may not understand why at this moment. Follow it, en route analyze it to understand why it is being followed. And still you are not able to figure, find somebody who is an expert in that field and learn from them. Just because we don't understand, we throw the baby along with the bathwaters. I stopped doing it, it doesn't make sense. So much of what we do doesn't make sense. But still, don't we do it? Bed coffee, does it make sense? Swamiji, we don't do it. I understand you may not be doing it. There are others who are doing it. Bed coffee, does it make sense? Let's not get into that. He says, for some coffee does not make sense. We are not talking of personal likes and dislikes. I am talking of achara. First clean your mouth and then have something, whether you agree with it or not. Whether it is milk, coffee, whatever you want to have. And suddenly we don't understand this process and throw it out. Why? It doesn't make sense. There are so many things that we do which doesn't make sense. It is not these processes, time-tested processes that have to be thrown. If and when you are doing these, perform them as prescribed, not otherwise. Especially when they are done for sakama bhava. For some, when you are propitiating that particular kind of a havan or yaga or puja, so that there is certain desires to be fulfilled. I was at somebody's house and they were performing Satyanarayana puja. And this priest he must have been questioned or asked many times about these 5 stories that they read. And he must have found it very awkward. So he cut it short. The entire 5 stories, 3 minutes, done. So I went close to him, sat next to him. I said, if these stories are not read by the one who is performing, do you know what is the Falashruti? Swamiji, why are you putting that fear in my heart? I can't answer the questions what they asked me after that. Have you asked somebody to find why those 5 stories? They don't make sense. Why should I be doing it out of fear? There are 90% of those who worship do it out of fear. Only 10% are matured enough to do it out of bhakti. At least with that fear they are getting closer to God. What is wrong? I never thought it from that perspective. And then you have the audacity to just bump the whole process out. I stopped going to these marriages and other places. खून खोलता है मेरा. Any of these religious ceremonies that people do it, they are doing it for a feel good factor and there is convenience. And the entire process is chopped. 25 minutes, the entire thing is done. And like this step is missed, this step is totally changed. Tell you, ignorance is bliss. And therefore I said, I don't come to marriage. Why? Aa bel mujhe maar. Why should I invite trouble and then feel all suffocated inside that these processes are not being done? Each process is meant so that you have a happy married life. Not as a cliche but as a reality. So continuing, in the fourth mantra he says, these are the external rules. Now while performing the yaga, what kind of things have to be observed? I am sure many of the priests who want us to perform it also don't know these details. There are 7 kinds of flames and there are ahutis that have to be offered only in certain flames and not other flames. And what are those 7 flames? Kali, Karali, cha Manojavacha, Sulohitaya cha Sudhumra Varna, Spulingini Vishwaruchi cha Devi, Lelayamana iti sapta jihva. Agni has sapta jihva. Agni alias sapta jihva. He has 7 tongues. The flames are like tongues. And what are they? Each one has a name. Kali. Kali means that which is black in color. There are flames which are black in color. Karali, the terrible fire, it's just burning. Manojavacha. Kali, Karali, Manojava. Manojava, it is something as swift as the mind. There are that flickering flames that go so fast flickering. Those flickering flames are not the ones where you have to offer. Why? What does it indicate? That there is a lot of wind. And when you are offering it, the offering sometimes because of the fire can go out. So wait, tham zara, stop and offer it in the appropriate. Sulohita. Sulohita, lohita is red. Says a red flame. Sudhumra varna. There is a smoky colored. Spulingini. Spulingini, that crystal clear, with a bluish hue. Such a bright flame that it comes out. Spulingini. Vishwaruchi. Vishwaruchi, it has got multiple shades. Of these 7, there are certain flames that you don't offer the oblations into. Kali you don't offer into. What does Kali mean? There is already enough fuel there, there is not enough oxygen for it to burn vigorously. So provide it, fan it. Manojava, don't offer. And there are certain mantras wherein the offering has to be done in Spulingini, there are some which have to be done in Vishwaruchi. As I said, many of the priests who perform also don't know that there are these kinds of 7 different. And it becomes intricate when the desire is that subtle. And there are these details that have to be followed, that have to be understood. And there are further details. These are the examples. And then he goes into generalizing it with the hints of these examples. That we will see tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.